All right, good morning. Oh my goodness, we're getting ready for summer, I can tell. Okay, good morning. It is May 14th. I'm Melissa Schwartz, the managing broker of the Paradise Valley Realty One Group office. Let me get the slideshow going. How is everybody today?
Great.
Good? All right. Well, I had fun looking at some stats here. Oh, but let's start with birthdays. Thank you very much. My birthday was earlier this month, and thank you for those that showed up. I was totally surprised with the office party here. Was not expecting that. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you, thank you. We had a great time. Thanks for the champagne and cake and everything to Rock Title. There you go. Thank you, Melinda. Appreciate it. So we have lots of birthdays here. Happy birthday to all of you. Any other May babies here? No? No, not here today. All right. We've got a lot of anniversaries. So they're threatening to show that I've been here 16 years this month and then 1 year next month because I started as the managing broker next month. Like, no, thanks. I'll take the 16 years that I've been here. Thank you. So for those that don't know, I started with Realty One Group back in 2008 and then came over to this office when they bought John Hall and Associates. I think it was now 12 and a half years ago. So we're heading towards 13. So congratulations to all of you on your anniversary. Just a reminder, it's a reset for your transaction fees if you hit the lovely cap. But so let's talk about the $1 Million Club. Do we have the number down here? We do. Down at the bottom, you will see 103,926,084. Now, the only thing that's interesting about that is I would love to tell you that that is showing that we made a change from last month. However, how many of you caught wind of the little press release about one of our agents last month? Does anybody know what I'm referring to? Joan, yes, Joan Levinson. Very large land sale in Paradise Valley. Does anybody know how large of a land sale it was?
Million.
How about $42 million? So Joan did a $42 million deal. So so yeah. So last month that number over there was 61 million and now it's 103 million, which is just about $42 million difference. So I would love to tell you that we've jumped up by 40 million and what the market's getting better. And I can't really tell you that because really you got to look inside the numbers. So in reality, we were really flat actually March to April. Okay. Which is kind of what everybody's feeling, right? They're like, things didn't move very much. They are starting to pick up, I will tell you that, but from March to April, they did not increase much at all in this office, okay? And we'll see, they didn't increase very much across the board, but I just wanted to bring that up. Congratulations to all of you. I think, Robert, you sold one of these. Are you up here? Yep, Robert's here. Robert sold one in lickety split one day. Is this the deal that you closed in one day? Yeah, there you go. He's just rocking it. Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. So we did have 120 lives. Interesting, the month before we had 128. So again, not much of a shift. Just a huge jump in numbers because of Joan's amazing deal. So let's get to the numbers, right? So this is a recap of I'm doing this now so you can see last month's reporting, which is on March, and then this month's, which is on April, right? We're obviously in May, but these are the last 2 months. And in between, you will see I'm showing you the differences. So sales price was up $31,000. The number sold was up 283, under contract up 204, days on market, 3 days, not a big deal. Active and coming soon up 423. This last box, just to make sure you guys understand and are reading this correctly, this is what is a year over year change. So sales prices were up 10.3% over April of 2023. I just want to make sure you guys are reading these charts correctly. And the solds were down 6.9%, right? Interest rates were still high. If you think about April of 2023 was when interest rates were just beginning to escalate quickly. They hadn't quite gotten to that 7.5 or 8%. So not surprising that year over year, we're down a little bit right now because of the high interest rates. Contracts are down 6.2% year over year, right? We're increasing month over month, but not year over year. So if we go to the next slide, all right. So what I've done here is at the very top, that's kind of replicating this chart, okay? At the very top, you're going to see since the February office meeting, and these are the same numbers we just talked about, right? Up 323 and active and coming soon. Those are not the right numbers. Did I not change that? That's weird. Oh, this has the wrong numbers. There you go, 423. Put that down. 203 and then 204. Those are the correct numbers there. Maricopa County, again, I pull it in because the Arizona Regional MLS covers Payson, Prescott, Tucson. I mean, if somebody puts it into our Arizona Regional MLS, then it ends up in our numbers. Not really what we want to look for when we're trying to really narrow in to see what's happening here in Maricopa County. Okay, so you guys can come in. There's seats all the way over here. There's plenty of seats. So, and then the next thing I did is take it to single family. So we can kind of look at what's happening with the single family homes versus the overall homes. So when you're looking at the single family, again, you're seeing up, up, up. We do have a few things that are down, but not by much. Coming soon is down by 88 on the single family homes in all of Maricopa County. But the UCB, CCBS, those are up 112. So it's not a huge shift. Then when we get to our 10-mile radius around our office, most things again are up. What is down is coming soon, both for single family and in general. Remember that top number, the 150 over there of coming soon, is for all types of homes. The single family is just single family. Okay, so I'm doing a general search and then I'm narrowing it to single family. So don't add those two together. They're actually, one is within the other, right? That's showing you there are what, 38 either manufactured homes, townhomes, condos, whatever, just so you can see that difference there. Sold was still up last month, not by much, but 65 total units, 14 single family homes. Okay, so we're still seeing movement in this area. And remember, 10 miles around this office is huge. It's almost from the 101 on the north side to Tempe, right? It's a huge area. And I think it almost goes I-17 to the other side of the 101 on the east. 10 miles is a big, big area. All right. So I went ahead and continued these sheets just to give you an idea. The summary is up on the top, but these are matching. This is the new Fannie Mae 1004 statistics. Sales price increased up $10,000 still. How is that happening? Why? Low inventory, low buyers, right? So if people want a property, they are going after the properties they want. If they don't find something they want, they're not buying, right? They have to want what they're looking for and go after it. The list price stayed even at 600,000 and the housing supply decreased just a tad to 2.93 months. So, which is kind of unusual. You would think that the days on market would have gone up and it really didn't. So I'm tracking all of this. So if you ever want to look at this, I can pull this out for you, but we're tracking month by month by month on these reports. So we can see what each month I added, the 513 pull yesterday. And you can see kind of those shifts there. All right, let's look at the 10-mile radius. So our median sales price increased to $735 up $17,000 in a 10-mile radius. I don't think that land sale counts, so that's good because that would have probably skewed our numbers a lot more. The median list price decreased $13,000, but you can see the list price to sale price is a huge difference. You know, 889 is the median list price and the sales price is 735. So there's definitely a gap there. And then housing supply decreased to 3.24. So again, we're not increasing days on market. So there are buyers out there buying, but there's no huge rush. And we'll hear from our lender later. She's back there. She's still back there. Barb's back there. We'll hear from our lender later on what's happening with the interest rates, but I think they're finally starting to come down a little bit. So it's a perfect time if they can come down. We'd love to see that. I did go ahead and do a full 10-mile radius, a full sheet, so you could see that progression on the 1004 statistics. How many of you are involved? Yep. Any questions? I'll go back to this. Go ahead, you can take a photo. Do you want I can send you the slides, Jenny. You guys can have the
I
slides.
can have it on my phone, okay?
Oh, perfect. She can zoom into it.
Yeah, already zoomed into it, so it's just right there.
Perfect, perfect. Any questions? No questions? How many of you have a deal pending right now? Look at that. Congratulations. That is awesome. I am seeing an increase. So it's kind of funny these numbers are where they are because I'm definitely seeing more activity. So how many of you have ever volunteered and been a part of any of the local associations, been on one of the committees, been on one of the governing boards, been a member of that? One, Jim's not raising his hand. We know Jim, Lloyd. So it's time, if you are in the Phoenix Association, they are looking for people to join their leadership academy. So if that's something of interest to you, it's a great opportunity to get that training if you've never had it. How many of you have worked for a nonprofit, participated, volunteered? So great opportunity to hone those skills, go get some training. The deadline is tomorrow, the 15th. And one of our members is the president. I believe the president. Is Sammy the president? Does anybody know? Sammy, the president of Phoenix Association? Yeah. Sammy Glassman? No. President-elect? I don't know. She's on the leadership. She'll have fun laughing at me that I didn't get that right. Okay. I'm still going to put this slide up here because I'm getting calls from people still with, oh my God, did you hear? Like, look, folks, if things online are stressing you out, please just take a deep breath. There are amazing things on the internet. I will not even begin to say that they're accurate. I would say 9 times out of 10, they may not be accurate. So please just recognize that and take a deep breath. Please feel free to call me. Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'd love to actually see from your perspective to request it from above, because they've not listened to any of our, when we're on the things on Wednesday morning, the updates for the lawsuit. It would be really helpful if our company would take all those questions that we're asking that they're not putting up and answering on a Q&A and send it out to us, because those are good questions. And I mean, seriously, I've read quite a lot of the questions, they're not even touching on them. And that would be helpful.
I can certainly ask that. One of the issues that they have and the reason they don't answer a lot of those questions on there is because they're talking to people from all across the country. So every state has their own rules and rule sets. And so our franchisees have to abide by those. And so as a parent organization, there's limitations on what they can demand across that's universal across the entire country. So I think that that's why they're not answering those just in general on the phone call. I had thought they were going to do some more answering and have some more facts out there. I'll find out. What they may be doing is posting it someplace, and I just am not aware where they're putting those answers.
Well, yeah, because we'd like to know that, and that like I said, there were a lot of great questions.
Right.
I put in a couple And I realized the phone call is only so
Sure.
long.
Yeah.
And that Alex guy just jacked up the storm and says 3-4 times the same thing. I'm not complaining, just that
Understood.
we'd like to actually get the answer.
Yeah, and I think the reason they're not answering some of those, I know they're not answering some of them because they are state specific. And so he can't even go down that road. And first of all, he's not a realtor, he's an attorney. So he's answering from an attorney perspective. What we're needing is the real estate guidance on how our NARs changes affecting our state changes. And I see Jim here, so we may ask some of those questions of him before this meeting is over. He didn't ask for that, but if he came in, he's fair game, so. He knows it's coming. Voluntold, yes. But just wanted to share that with you. I am really blessed in this office to have some folks that have volunteered and are working on the Culture Club. Thank you to those of you that are doing it. Anyone else that wants to step up and help us out with that, we love it. This is what is bringing us those Wine Wednesdays, the Leapfrog Day, whatever different things we're doing. We'd love some more ideas. It's really for you guys. So what you're looking for, let us know. All right. Speaking of that, I'm going to call on one of those people that has decided that she's going to help out with kind of one of these culture side things. And she's sitting there so calmly peeling oranges right now. Yeah. Come on up here. Come on, Jan. So, as we're getting ready to deal with all these forms, right? We know there's new stuff coming, but one of the things I've said repeatedly for the last 2 months is if you are not currently using a buyer broker agreement, start now, right? Don't wait for the new form to come out to go meet your clients and use it. How many of you have used a buyer broker before? How many of you use it all the time or have used it all the time? Well, that's actually a higher percentage than I expected. All right, congratulations on that. So we're asking some of you that have done this before to come join us and those that have not to come join us because we really want to have an opportunity to do some role playing. But, Jan found out there are these national days. What is Thursday? Go ahead.
Thursday is National Mimosa Day. So we figured out, because we had our first meeting and no one showed up. So we figured out that what happens here is people show up when we actually have food or drinks. So I called Melissa the other day and I was like, hey, did you know that this Thursday is National Mimosa Day? I'm like, can we have mimosas? And maybe we'll get somebody in here.
We'll have some orange juice. You can have orange
Yeah,
juice
yeah.
instead of the champagne.
And
Does everybody know what a mimosa is? I guess I should start with that. Yeah. Everybody know what a mimosa is? Orange juice and champagne? Okay.
this is Realty One Paradise Valley. They all know it.
People
Actually, you can use any kind of juice.
Oh, really?
Grapefruit
Okay, there you
juice,
go.
Cranberry
Mango,
juice,
okay.
Mango.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Hint, Jan.
Yeah, so I'm figuring with that kind of reaction, all of you are gonna come on Thursday. It's at 10 a.m. this Thursday, and each week will be a different subject. Melissa wanted us to start out with the buyer broker agreement, which is probably a really good idea. And I know a lot of us do open houses, and it's a good subject also on how you talk to people coming in. So those are all the type of things, any kind of communication that you have with a buyer or a seller are subjects that we'll role play on. And I've been to role playing at other brokerages, and they have huge turnouts and they love doing it, and the people keep coming back and back. So I'm hoping that this is something that we can do here, because there's a lot of agents also that Melissa has recruited that are new and don't know how to interact with those clients. So after the meeting, I'll be taking all your names and numbers and make sure that you show up on Thursday.
Run quickly, run quickly. No, seriously, folks, I think it's really important because how many of you have practiced, this is something I'm saying to my new agents, how many of you have practiced what you're going to say when somebody says, oh my gosh, I've heard all about this NAR lawsuit. You guys are just getting all the money, da, da, da. Are you prepared to have a comment to that isn't telling that person that pound sand, right? There's still a potential client. You need to have a conversation. Are you practicing that? Are you saying it out loud and hearing yourself for how you sound when you say that? Because if you're sounding like you're defensive and they don't know what they're talking about and they're idiots, how well do you think that is going to come across? That conversation's not going anywhere. And you potentially lost a friend and a client in the process of that. So please, if you're not coming here, your mirror is your friend. If nothing else, talk to yourself in front of a mirror, listen to yourself, record yourself, right? You need to practice these things. This is not something most of us can do and come off sounding like we are compassionate to what their concerns are, but we have added information that we want to give them to help them understand the whole scope of it. And one of the things for us in Arizona, most of the things in this lawsuit were already addressed years ago here in Arizona, right? So if you don't have that in your tool chest, you need to make sure you're having that information so you can come across as intelligent, knowledgeable about the situation, a realtor understanding National Association of Realtors, right? Understanding what that is given this community. If you come out telling people, yeah, NAR is a bunch of bullshit, right? And then why do you, well, I have to. Well, okay, that really that makes me want to work with you because you obviously don't even care about the organization you're in. I mean, and I've had realtors come at me saying, this is ridiculous. I want to drop NAR. I'm like, well, that's fine. Then thank you very much. You don't need to work with Realty One Group because you can't, right? Realty One Group has an agreement. And part of our agreement is that we and all of our agents are part of the National Association of Realtors, the local association, and the state association. How many of you like our forms? Okay. How many of you want a blank sheet of paper to write your contracts? How many of you want to hire an attorney to handle your transactions? How much do you think an attorney would cost versus your $550 you pay a year if you had to have an attorney write all your contracts? I mean, is there value there, folks? Are you recognizing the value of the membership? And I know I'm being just kind of crass here, but I don't think people quite put two and two together. Because I've heard realtors really say the strangest things in the last 2 months. It's like, do you understand the amount of support you actually have? And by the way, by being a part of Realty One Group, when we settled this lawsuit, you are personally covered from being sued under that same format, right? Obviously, somebody can bring some other form, but lawsuit, but you are personally covered. If you leave Realty One Group, then you'd be covered under the NAR one if you were part of NAR. But I don't know what your future coverage would be because you are no longer a part of the National Association of Realtors. If you left both, right? Then you're leaving that coverage that you had that was part of the negotiation that Realty One Group did to protect all of the agents. Right? They didn't just protect the company. They went through and made sure all of the agents were covered individually in that lawsuit settlement. And by the way, Realty One Group settlement was very clear. We did not admit to anything because Realty One Group was fully prepared to argue our case, but as many others felt it was more efficient to go ahead and settle and move on, right? But because Realty One Group does not take a percentage of any commission, they felt very confident in their case to say, we're not a part of this. We never, ever participate in any commission. It is 100% commission to our agents. And so, but again, for reasons of moving on and being able to just get on with business, they did agree to settle. So understand that and understand the value of the National Association of Realtors, AAR, and the local associations. Jim, you want to jump in here or you want me to keep going through some other stuff?
No, I'm happy.
So for those that don't know, come on up to for those that don't know Jim, Jim is the former designated broker for Realty One Group. He is currently working on the committees to redo, how many forms? 8 forms?
6.
Come on
And
this side.
counting. Oh,
6
sorry,
and
no,
counting?
no, no.
I heard it was even more than that.
Yeah, I know, well, we added a couple yesterday. So Johnny, let's start with your questions.
Jim, you got to come this way.
Typed in, literally typed in the thing and I mean, but along with everybody else's. And it didn't give me, a lot of times when you're on Zoom, it gives you the option to, save all of them. It wasn't giving
Oh,
that
okay.
option, so.
Yeah.
But basically, some of them were like, when are we gonna finally, like you and Wendy were saying you were gonna do that, the form, the, new fire broker license.
yep.
Some of those were like, when do we
Got
think those things are gonna be like brought out? so
Got
we
it.
can-
He
Okay.
has that information.
And so, Melissa's absolutely right. Alex is doing the macro. Your question, that first question is the micro. What's happening in the state? So let me go over that real quick. First of all, it was interesting, last week the folks were at DC and did you cover this already?
No.
It's pretty cool that, Craig is now treasurer, or he will be treasurer installed in in November.
Does everybody know Craig
Craig
Stanford
yeah.
from our office? So he's the
Yeah.
treasurer for NAR.
That's pretty cool, but it's also, what are you thinking, Craig? Where are you gonna find $400 million here in the next 4 years? It's like, where is that coming from? And the other thing though, that they announced, that NAR announced, is that they pushed back the start date. So we're now August 17th. So it's not, so the change, so removing the compensation from MLS isn't gonna happen in July or in June, or July, I guess is when we were thinking about it. So it's now pushed back. We're still going to complete the forms, and the forms that we're working on will be completed and submitted to risk management the end of this month. And so we'll have those approved. Currently, obviously, we did the ready form, and that's been out now for 2 months.
Yeah.
The buyer broker exclusive, as well as the buyer broker light, have been approved and are ready to be submitted to risk. The buyer broker light, which came out initially as a non-exclusive, which, wasn't a fan of, is now a 1-pager. And so it's a document that basically says, the first line on it says it's a notice. Realtors are required to have an agreement. In fact, we changed the name. It's an agreement to show property. And realtors are required to have an agreement to show prior to showing property. So it gives you an intro into, why are you sticking this under my nose to show me properties, And it breaks the ice in a much less intimidating manner than the non-exclusive or the full exclusive. So that, that'll be part of it as well. Hopefully it gets approved as is. Yesterday, we spent some time reviewing the loop comments on the EREA form, the listing form. And we pretty well have that put to bed as well. And so that'll be ready to go. Interesting, when you do a deep dive into what changes you have to put in there, it's amazing the kind of, the kind of paths that you've got to cover in order to make sure that everything makes sense
So
in any agreement.
let me jump in here real quick. For those that don't understand, with the MLS, the co-broke not being in the MLS, but still being allowed to be disclosed, we had communicated, we had to, or they had to change how that was written, and an option for a seller to say, I don't want that to be communicated on any type of internet or website or anything else. So for instance, if your seller is paying 0 co-broke, he probably don't want that posted anywhere. It's up to them, but they probably didn't want that posted, which means you have to be prepared to field those calls and respond to those inquiries. We are working on a website change that will have on our Realty One Group websites, that you will be able to have what your seller is offering on your listings, okay? It will not be on the original scroll. Somebody will have to click on that property to be able to then see the co-broke. But that required additional check boxes on that listing contract that the seller agrees to allow that to be put out there. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, and the tricky part of that is that, okay, now, what Melissa is talking about, and this was what our snag was yesterday, is is more than likely a limited rep contract, dual agency, because you're putting out the co-broke to another Realty One agent. It's only going to Realty One agents. And so, yeah, so we got tripped up over some of the language allowing that. Because yes, certainly we're gonna be able to, the listing broker, the seller's gonna authorize the listing broker to offer compensation to any buyer broker that comes in. And then we've also created a category for what happens if the listing agent is, the buyer comes directly. And the listed agent's gonna have two choices. They're gonna have a choice of, they might still do a variable commission, right? And so if I sell it myself instead of, when we do the meetings now, it's all fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
Instead of five apples, it's gonna be 4 apples, or I'll get 8 apples in the event that I'm the only agent involved in the transaction. But then if I'm an unrepresented, if the buyer is unrepresented, is it gonna be the same as if I'm gonna go, directly into limited rep? And so, we've got those options that we worked on. But anyway, that's the ER contract. This afternoon, we're doing the addendum, broker to broker and broker compensation addendum to the purchase contract and complete those. Those have been out in the loop as well. We've got the loop comments back and we're anticipating finishing those up this afternoon. So they'll be ready to go to risk management next Thursday.
I sent this to Wendy and I should have sent it to you. Did you guys do an addendum for broker to buyer? For an addendum to the buyer broker agreement? Because we have no addendum that is between the broker and a buyer. We have a listing contract addendum, which is
Yeah.
between an owner and a broker.
Yeah.
We have a regular addendum, which is between a buyer and a seller, but we don't have an addendum that would be to the buyer broker agreement, which is two other parties.
Right.
So. that's another-
Fortunately, those are the easy ones to do.
Sure.
Because it's just the,
It's just
it's
more.
just the definitions up top of who it involves. Because on Friday, we created a new form and that's an addendum to the listing agreement, So that, or no, that is.
No, we already have
Take
that.
Take it back. That's an addendum to the buyer broker agreement,
Oh,
yes.
you did do.
Because
it,
it's gonna
okay.
be
need
a
one.
cancellation.
Correct.
You'll be able to
Or
cancel it on the addendum. It's gonna be an extension. It's gonna be could be a term. In other words, I'm gonna get paid more, I'm gonna get paid less,
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
that's gonna be. So,
That's
yeah,
what I was
those,
looking for.
I haven't seen it yet because they just started it on
Perfect.
Friday. But yeah, it's in the mix. So anyway, yeah.
Awesome.
Let me see, what else? So the dates moved back. So currently what I heard yesterday, which I'm lobbying against, is that the forms aren't gonna be released until the 1st of August. I'm saying, come on, it's gotta be out in July at the latest in order to get classes in there, in order to train the trainers and in order to get people up to speed on that. Plus, you're talking about role playing different situations. You need to see the forms to be able to present them. And then also to develop your strategies. I mean, help me out. Just because the seller authorizes me to offer compensation, and since it's all Realty One, I'll say, say I can offer 2.5% or whatever. Is that in the seller's best interest for me to offer it all that amount all the time? Or should my conversation be somewhere along the lines of, help me out, what are you thinking about a price? I'd rather see the terms. I'd rather see what you're going to ask for seller concessions before I go into this thing, because understand buyer broker agreement can be negotiated throughout the transaction. Okay, and that's going to be the whole change. The importance of that buyer broker agreement are going to be to establish your value in the transaction. In fact, to me, number one thing is not so much overcoming the NAR settlement and what's going on. It's hey, I'm here to be your realtor and here's what I'm bringing to the table. And, it should start, with how many years you've been in the business, the transactions that you do, your client testimonials and stuff like that, that allow you to differentiate yourself from you and the person that, that is newer in the industry or doesn't have your experience or doesn't have your knowledge, concerning 10-mile radius of the office or stuff like that. Those are things that I think are going to be most important to the people that are going to succeed because they're prepared. The one thing that I found throughout, being a manager, in the office or being a broker is that agents don't start selling until the contract, or start negotiating until the contract is on the table and I'm talking to the other agent. Or back in the day when I started actually talking to, if I've got the buyer, I'm talking to the seller. And that's when people think that the switch goes on to start negotiating. But instead, we're gonna start negotiating as soon as we meet the buyer. As soon as we talk to the buyer, as soon as they walk into an open house, as soon as they're calling us on the phone, as soon as we get the inquiry across the internet. So we need to be prepared with scripts, with responses that don't sound defensive and that, you're adding value to, and you're adding reasons for why they should be using you and you alone, in my opinion. Joni, what other questions? Come on, did I cover any of them?
Actually, yeah, some of that that we're on in
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, but Alex doesn't know that. He's a California guy. And he doesn't know what's going on in Arizona because, 2 weeks ago, I got a copy of the California contract. Somebody sent me the buyer broker agreement because, I'm doing the forums. It's like, hey, look at all this stuff. Okay, that's nice. I can't use it. Well, I used some, we looked at it and kind of used some of it. But,
Does anybody else have questions?
Well,
Yeah.
Mark Pessin is the one that was the moderator.
yeah,
And he was stuck to like this one question and he, kept coming back to Alex. I'm like, move on. There's so
Yeah.
many different questions
Yeah.
that are here that are really important.
Mark said, was he a Nevada guy or is he California now?
I think the Nevada guy.
I think he's a Nevada guy. Yeah, Leaf?
Yes, is there gonna be any, like, there can't be a grandfather law or time period?
Transition?
That's right.
Yeah, there'll be a transition period.
Will there be?
What depends. What do you mean by transition?
You do a listing, ER, and July first, come
Yeah.
August first.
Yeah.
What are we doing there?
Oh, yeah, actually, we don't have a, I guess the listing addendum is gonna be there to change some of the language. And it would be a good idea just to make sure that sellers are aware of what's going on. And understand what's happening. Okay, so I see a property. Let's assume that August 17th is a hard date and actually happens. One of the most frustrating things for me is that it's a moving target and the rules keep changing. Between each meeting, there's 3 or 4 major things. It's sort of like, Zillow comes out with their own form 2 weeks ago, right? Everybody wants to say, what are we going to do with this? And are we going to use that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, our form is better. And here's why, wait and you see it. And we'll go from there. But, if you're using Zillow, if Zillow is your source of leads, you probably have to use their form for a little bit, but check with Melissa and see if there's a company policy coming out regarding that. But as far as the transition thing, one of the major pushbacks that we got on our form is that we set it up so the broker to broker compensation is only good for 10 days. That's a boilerplate 10 days. The reason being is, help me out. We're going to have you can change the price of the property and everybody gets notified. How quickly? As soon as it's in the computer, everybody's out there. Well, if the compensation changes, tell me how everybody gets notified. It's not published anywhere, right? Unless, it's in-house. And so how is that going to happen? And the other thing that's going to be, let's assume we're showing, August 15th and 16th, and we see a property and the property is something that they want to go on. So we're ready to write on the 17th. What's your compensation? My compensation is going to be whatever I have in a buyer broker agreement, because there is no offer of compensation until you get back into the dialogue with the listing agent to see if they're offering anything.
So-
The fact that they were offering something on the 15th
Yeah.
at 2.5% doesn't mean it's offered on the 17th or the 18th.
So let me clarify, that
August.
people may not understand that there is going to be a broker to broker compensation agreement. So when you're making those phone calls to those listing agents that aren't answering the phones, right? You're gonna send over that form saying, what is the compensation on this? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So there is a written form for that.
But again, this is going to be some of the strategies that I think need to come in play, because to me, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a buyer broker agreement. And my buyer broker agreement is going to say I'm going to get paid X. Now I don't necessarily need to be talking to the other agent about is there compensation. I can still show property because I have my buyer broker agreement, so I'm going to get paid whatever. Okay. Now, if this is the property that I want, now I'm going to introduce the dialogue. Hey, we're getting ready to write. I got a buyer broker agreement at 3%. I'm just curious, has your seller offered that? Or what is your seller offered? Something to that effect. Some people may lead with the number. Some people may say, I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. Again, the strategy is involved. I mean, seriously, think about it, because my obligation is to my client, which is what? Get him the highest amount of money, the highest net. Okay, so if they've got a 1% buyer broker agreement, do I want to tell them that the seller's offered 3? Or have I not represented my
Well, it doesn't
seller
matter
client?
because the new contract says that whatever is offered, that's all that they're getting. You can't get more
On buyer broker.
Correct.
on the buyer broker.
But again, if I say that they're offered 3, all of a sudden, and I'm only gonna get 1, I'm still gonna, as a buyer broker, I'm still gonna ask for 3. Why? The difference goes to my client, the buyer. Okay, so again, it's a function of, again, the strategies of how that's gonna play out. You think I've had it up to here with all these what ifs and all the rest of the stuff of the forms? Okay, Joni, number 2.
So if, this is what's really confusing. and
Yes, it is. You're getting it. Thank you so much. Mhm.
So when you have, they're saying you have to have a buyer broker signed up front with your buyer. Get that. However, the whole thing that we're trying to do is to actually protect our buyer from having to pay out of pocket if the seller
Yep.
is gonna offer 2.5 or 3%.
Right.
So if we have to do one upfront and it's only at like 2 and they're offering 2.5 or 3, there's, what is that?
That goes to
addendum?
the buyer.
What?
Goes to the buyer.
So that we don't get, anything. So how is that fair?
You need to write that agreement with the buyer up front, with the
Yeah.
whole, let's say 3 apples or whatever, 3%. And then if the seller is only offering, you can have a verbal agreement with that buyer. Okay, they're agreeing that they're gonna pay you 3% and you tell them, but this is verbal. But if the seller is only offering 2.5%.
Gonna be the problem.
Yeah.
So that
No,
is
the-
gonna
the-
actually have to be an addendum specific
Oh,
to
they
that
did?
property.
Okay.
There's gonna have to be an addendum to that buyer broker saying on 123 East Main Street, I'm going to take 2%.
The seller, the buyer is gonna be responsible for X. Whether
Right.
they end up paying me or they ask for the seller to pay is a different thing. Your scenario, Joni, is best resolved by taking control of the fee, of the compensation. By that, I mean upfront. And how you do that is if your expectation is, if you always want to be or more, or whichever is greater, then plug it in at 3.
Correct.
And now you're in charge of negotiating if you need to negotiate down. And you can talk to your buyer on what's gonna go on. But what's gonna happen is, and you come in at 3 and the seller's offering you 2, and now you've got a 1% delta. You know, yes, you can go back and ask the buyer for more. No, the buyer doesn't have any money or doesn't want to pay out of pocket. Or you can then say, okay, 2's good. You know, and you decide when you're gonna say 2 is good. And yeah, it has to be right.
But it will be 2 on 123 East Main Street,
Specific.
specific.
So you
You
would
can
say-
do that
Yes,
specific.
yes.
So you, the specifics though, is on your buyer broker upfront, you say the 3%. But then you can tell your buyer, I'm gonna try to negotiate.
Yes.
Where the seller
Yes.
will do whatever.
Yes.
And in that event, then they will actually credit the buyer in the settlement statement.
No, it's going to you directly. It's still coming from the listing broker. The buyer
so-
won't have to pay it. The buyer broker will be delivered, but if you're getting paid what is on there, then there's nothing being asked to from the buyer.
But I
broker.
think her question was, is the buyer, if,
Yeah, it's being.
if I dropped it to 2, is the buyer still gonna get the 1% because the seller was offering it? And if your buyer,
Oh,
if your
yes.
broker to broker agreement says 3, then yes, it's currently set up that the buyer will get it.
I'm
We'll
sorry.
get the overage.
So, and then because we set it up as 3, we're covered and they just get that. If it's a 0.5% or whatever, it comes back to them on the settlement statement.
Yes,
Wait, if you're set up at 3 and the seller offering 3, there's no delta.
yeah.
There's no difference.
No, if they're only offering 2.5.
Okay,
You asked the buyer
And my buyer broker says 3.
Right.
And they then come back and say, oh, yeah, we'll go ahead and do 3.
oh,
But I'm saying
Oh,
if we
yeah,
don't
no.
then-
Correct. They would pay it and your buyer is not responsible for it. We were both thinking you were doing it the other direction.
Yeah.
That the seller was offering 3 and you were only at 2%, your buyer would get that 1%.
so the mechanics of it is, again, the broker to broker are gonna say 2.5 because that's all the seller authorized. You would then do the buyer compensation addendum, which goes broker to seller, and which the seller may agree to bump it to do an additional 1/2. So you'll have in that transaction, both the broker to broker for 2.5, and then the seller agrees to 1/2. if that happens.
And will the broker to broker be a part of the purchase contract?
No, it's between brokers.
Okay.
The buyer compensation agreement is the addendum to the contract. So the seller signs off on that. But the seller has already authorized the listing broker in the EREA form to offer and to enter a contract with a buyer broker for 2.5%. So that can go broker to broker.
So part of the reason we're trying to do this is we are trying very hard not to have commissions be a part of the purchase contract. Any guesses on how many contracts I've seen with buyer broker commissions in the purchase contract in the last 2 weeks?
Really?
Yep. So,
Really?
I've got one.
Why?
because they're trying to address these, because there's,
But it's an MLS.
but the compensation is not what they were asking for, so they're
Also, they're trying to
adjusting it.
bump it.
They're adjusting it.
Got it.
In purchase contract,
Oh.
one writes and everybody signs that seller to pay buyer broker, say 2%.
So,
3%.
so let me ask you this before you continue. Who signs the purchase contract?
The buyer and the seller.
Yes, and who did you say was a part of that conversation?
What you.
A broker?
A broker? We don't sign purchase contracts. It's between a buyer and a seller.
So we should
This
not
is the
write-
problem. Commissions do not belong on the purchase contract because they're not brokers that are signing off on
signing
it
on-
Until
until.
they are,
Yeah,
because
right.
you're making it a contingency.
Right, but this is the problem. You're putting that on there and saying the broker agrees to. I don't see a broker agreeing to anything on this form.
Ah,
The seller agrees to it, the buyer agrees to it, but the brokers had no say in the matter.
And part of the reason, Melissa, that's a great point. Part of the reason is that we got the buyer compensation agreement is because, again, I'm sorry, buyer compensation addendum to the purchase contract. It will still be buyer to seller, signing that, okay? But it has a specific language that allows the buyer broker compensation to be considered compensation and not making anybody an IPC, interested party contribution, which is the same as a seller concession, which will cap out the buyers to the lender's maximum amounts, okay? So it's not, it'll be considered still a compensation as it is today and not a seller concession. So you need the specific language, which the buyer compensation addendum has, which lenders have signed off on, which says that it's not gonna impact the buyer's ability to receive seller concessions.
Okay, we have 3 questions here. Go ahead.
The whole purpose of offering a co-broke compensation is for the seller to attract a buyer.
Yes,
If you've already got a buyer who's totally interested in the property, they're ready to sign a contract, it's all written. Why do they have any reason, why would the seller have any reason to want to negotiate a compensation? They've got their buyer.
Well, do they? I've seen offers for $20,000 below list price. They don't have a buyer yet. There's no meeting of the minds. So
You've seen it and they.
doesn't matter. You still don't necessarily have a meeting of the minds.
but
You
here's.
have to get to the point where there's an agreement.
Here's the thing, Jen. Okay, so we're having this discussion now and we're talking about the market, May of 2024. If we roll back the clock about 2 or 3 years where you put a property on the market and you get 20 offers, in the first 2 days. Now now the seller asks the question, Jen, why do I need to offer a
Yeah,
co-broke? Okay, so the fact that we're setting this up, reflecting on today's market doesn't mean the seller is always going to feel the same about attracting buyers because the sign will attract buyers, because knowing that this property's on the market will attract buyers. So this isn't going to be fix it once and it's going to be the same going forward. Oh, and the other thing, Melissa, that's so important to get across is that, Alex talks about the release and everything else, and the release is true, and the release will be impacted and it'll go back, 3 years or 4 years, I think it's 2020. And the release, and it'll cover all the transactions up to and including August 17th. If we are involved in bad actions,
Oh, yeah.
bad conversations after August 17th, we're opening ourselves up. There's no more release. We're not released anymore, which means you can still be sued again for your actions going forward. So understand that. So again, I never say that. Well, don't worry about it. It's baked into the contract and the seller pays for it. So in effect, it's free. Your compensation is, no, that's bad. Oh, when you tell the seller that you need to attract buyers, right? And therefore to attract buyers, you need to have 3% commission, or you need to have whatever the amount of the commission. Understand the commission is fully negotiable. You need to present it, and then you need to ask the sellers a question, and and what are you comfortable presenting or offering? And let the seller go, well, Jan, what should I offer? Whatever you'd like. Okay, not Jan telling you that you need to offer X or you need to offer Y or blah, blah, blah. Joni, oh, who's next? Sorry. Marie.
So you have a list ready. And your book office said- So you have a compensation.
Yes, yes.
So what do we do? Taking that.
No, the field goes away.
Just the field
field
in the
go-
MLS
gone.
go away.
There will be no buyer broker compensation. Field. Gone.
It's just a field. It doesn't mean that the seller isn't still offering it.
No,
Because
you've got
the
your agreement.
ER
Yeah,
Your ER still says they're offering it. It's just the field in the MLS that goes away. So if I call you and say, hey, Marie, how much is your seller offering a buyer broker on this property? You have an ER that says they're offering 2.5 apples, right? Whatever it is, right? So that's fine. Thank you very much. Now, I want that in writing. I don't want that phone call, right?
as the buyer broker, yes.
As the buyer broker, I want something in writing. Preferably not via text. That's why they've got these forms, but at worst case scenario, I probably would take a
I'll
text.
take a text.
I'll take a text saying, yeah, Melissa, this property is offering 2.5% co-broke. Great, I'm gonna go show it.
As long as they don't have more than one phone that they use. If they send it on your kid's phone, then you're in trouble, right?
They're no longer honoring that PR agreement.
Yes, they are. The ER says 2.5%.
No, the ER's got an expiration date. The ER agreement doesn't go away on August 17th.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying is they already have that agreement with who's ever gonna come and buy the property on the ER form.
Yes.
Regardless of if it's an MLS or not.
Correct. It's just going away from MLS. Everybody, please understand, that's what happens on that drop dead date is the MLS field disappears. Your ER agreements don't disappear. There's still a contract. And if they're written through November 15th, that ER is valid through November 15th.
Although it can be changed, just the price can be changed and the co-op fee can be changed, okay? But if it's not changed, it's still in play. All right?
So,
I'm sorry, you're the one, Chief. Go ahead.
so the seller, after the 17th, and you already have like, say, a listing agreement, agreed to. And is the seller gonna be able to change their mind on the compensation? They start hearing all these things. Oh, we don't have to pay commission for compensation. And the other thing is, because if going through the contract, you all of a sudden then say, we want concessions from the bidder. And they say, oh, we're gonna give you these, we wanna change whatever. Will they be able to change that compensation because of those concessions? And part B question is.
That's C. Come on, that's the third one.
Has anybody heard about whether or not the lending institutions are going to allow that compensation, that extra compensation for compensation?
Okay, you missed the whole thing about the other addendum that is making it not be a part of the seller concessions that Jim just talked about, that he said this addendum will allow the compensation to remain, what was it?
Compensation.
Compensation.
Not
and
concession.
Concessions.
Yeah.
And therefore it does not apply to the cap.
And
Okay, so there is a.
You're not getting my question.
Well, wait, let me go to the first part of your question. Can I go back to that? Let me ask everybody here. Can the seller currently modify the ER that you're under contract with?
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, the seller can modify that ER. And I had somebody call me with that. Somebody called one of our agents saying, has the settlement been done? I want to get rid of my buyer broker commission. And I said, call them. They can do it right now. There's nothing changed.
They sign something and they can actually change an ER and say, oh, no, it's in MLS, and they say, oh, I don't want to pay that compensation anymore?
So right now, can you modify your ER if the seller calls you and says, I no longer want to offer 2.5%, I want to offer 1%?
No, I don't, I'm not under the impression that can happen.
can the seller raise the price? Can the seller call you up and raise the price?
They can, and I can say, do you really want to do that?
Sure. And can they lower the price?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can they change the concession amount they're offering?
And I'm asking the question, you're acting like I'm an idiot that I don't know that.
no,
No, not at all.
but the commission's the same thing, Joni.
It's the same thing and nothing's changed. My point is, your question has nothing to do with the changes that are coming around. Your seller can modify an ER today. If they call you and say, I want to reduce the purchase price today, you'd say, okay, let me send you a sold change form. You're reducing the purchase price. They can call you and say, you know what? Because I'm reducing the purchase price, I want to go from 3% to 2.5%. And you're like, okay, you're not under contract with a buyer right now. You just have a listing agreement, right? It's a different question. If you're under contract with a buyer, they can't change it at that point.
But,
that right?
but Melissa, the pure answer
But-
is you're right. You've got a contract and you don't have to agree to a price reduction,
No, but I
a
think she
price
was saying
increase,
she was under
or the
contract with a
compensation.
buyer.
Well, she's under contract on the
No.
ER.
Right, she's saying she was under contract with a buyer. I didn't catch that
Oh, I'm
point,
sorry, I'm
Joni.
sorry.
No, my point was.
No,
if
they
you-
can't.
So let's step back here.
Yeah.
Joni, if you just have an ER, not a buyer right now. If you just have an ER, the seller can modify that ER, okay? If
Can
you
request it to be modified.
request it to be modified, it's a two-way agreement. The broker or you as the listing agent have to agree to those changes, right? And if not, you have to say, no, we're not gonna change that. But that's probably gonna be a pretty contentious thing. If you're not gonna allow them to drop the price, they wanna drop the price.
Or raise the price. Yeah.
You know, but all of those are negotiable. If you are under contract with a buyer, right? You have a buyer under contract. No, the seller can't change the compensation to the buyer's agent because there's already an agreement connecting all of that from buyer to seller, okay?
That was part A or B, whichever.
But
one.
you never said you had a buyer in place,
The
sorry.
next one, the next part of it was, so that's when they come to you and go, well, if I'm gonna offer concessions, I don't wanna offer this kind of compensation. Are they gonna be able to do
So,
that?
so let me ask you this, if you have an appraisal shortfall and the seller has already agreed to concessions and there's an appraisal shortfall, what happens? Renegotiate, right? You renegotiate. Do all parties have to agree? Yeah. If they don't, what does the buyer have the right to do? Cancel. You can renegotiate. If they don't come to terms, somebody's canceling. Right? Can the seller say, yeah, I'm not gonna pay all of this and this and this and this? Something's gonna have to give someplace. How many of us call that a commissionectomy? I've used those before, not that I wanted to, right? I mean, it's negotiable. It's all negotiable. If anything NAR has taught us about this whole lawsuit, it's negotiable and it's not the agent's choice.
But
It's
usually
the
not,
client.
usually when everybody's signing and they think that they've got this going forward, it's usually not negotiable unless there's something that's a breach or a change that all parties are going to agree to, like you call up and the other agent and say, well, this is what they want to do with concessions, and is this going to cause a problem for the compensation? So that's what I'm saying, it's like, I'm asking the question only for whether or not we're taking that into consideration on these forms and what we need to be aware of that can change.
Wait, so the lender is the one initiating the conversation and saying that we need more for concessions?
Yes, because
Yeah.
they're saying, the lender's saying, no. The lender, what we're trying to find out, a lot of us that were on those questions on the Zoom thing was, are the lenders going to actually, because the conversation was that they were going to talk about allowing more compensation, to be more money towards concessions to cover the compensation.
So in Arizona, we found a different way to do that.
Well, Fannie and Freddie approved it. And it even's gonna allow agents to handle VA buyers. So what's happening is the specific language in the ER form is that we're calling it additional compensation to the listing broker. And then what's happening is then the seller is providing the funds in order to pay the buyer broker amount. So in the event, we're doing a broker to broker. Okay, so my listing fee is gonna be 3%, whatever it is. gonna be 3%. Then I'm gonna have additional compensation, and the additional compensation is gonna be the 3% that I'm offering the buyer broker. And so it's all coming through me, the listing broker, okay, because I'm getting reimbursed, and it's just like it is now, flow wise. Okay, so, and because it's that way, specific language, it's super important in order to avoid the lender trap of max, or it's a concession, or, you know, is the buyer now gonna have to come out of pocket because the seller isn't gonna allow you to, that flow to happen that way.
That's what that other form was that he was just talking about.
Okay?
Yes.
Is that A,
So-
B, and C? Where am I? Leaf? I'm sorry, you're doing it.
Go ahead.
Leaf,
Sounds like these forms will be
Yes.
covering us.
Right.
All the work that's done for us.
And we can take training and we can read and.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a few brain cells that have been burned up trying to get before that. I can assure you.
Jim, what's your favorite alcoholic
Oh
beverage?
my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I come out of a meeting. I come out of a meeting and I don't know if the meeting is about contract law, agency law, or NAR. You're speaking and you're up there. I am still here. Yes. Barb,
I don't know if anybody else, but the more I listen, the more training I need.
yes,
Yes,
And
absolutely.
being a former educator, I need to get educated. And my question and my worry is, this is all gonna hit the fan and nobody's not gonna know what.
We are, he's
Get
working on it.
educated.
The hope is that he's gonna get them to agree to let those forms come out earlier.
right.
It does not make sense for them to come out when we have to use them on that date.
Yeah.
We need the training. At this point, we thought we were gonna get them in mid-June and we had a special CE class set up.
Yep.
We're trying to, if that happens, we will let you know. The hope is that it will come through for mid-June. If it doesn't, I'm sure we'll have stuff in July. So
I'll have the forms.
then plan on June.
But you know, if
13th.
I, assuming that I have them, what's said in the room stays in the room because
Big ballroom
some
for that.
folks.
We are going to
Yeah.
a room with
Good.
for seating for 300.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so how are we doing for questions?
There'll be more.
No, there'll be a lot more.
So how many of you are using buyer brokers when you are going out this week with your new buyers?
I use them for my renters.
There you go. Good for you.
Oh, God, renters, that's the thing that's driving us crazy, because unfortunately, well, fortunately, you know, the settlement doesn't apply to rentals, doesn't apply to vacant land, doesn't apply to business, commercial, blah, blah, blah. But since the buyer broker form is set up, so it does both sellers and landlords, sellers and owners and tenants, yeah, owners, buyers and tenants, like, we still have to have all the language tripping over each other. So the form is coming out still with all that language in there. And so even commissions are going away, lease commissions are going away on the 17th as well.
You know what they're doing? They're doing like referrals now. No one's talking about commission
Sure.
on rentals. and stuff.
Okay, how simple is that?
Super simple.
Yeah, but, and what do you get? You get a referral form and in writing to say what the referral, that's what we're kind of doing on the, you know, on the buy side commission.
But I need my forms before I go in there and talk to my client, and I'm reading the form at the same time because I'm like, I don't know what that means.
The referral form?
All my forms, the new ones.
Oh,
I
we-
love
no,
it.
yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
A month
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, we
Um,
get to.
You know, I'm trying to figure out what iteration we're on for the forms. Because our first meeting, you know, these are all 3-hour meetings. The first meeting for the buyer broker agreement, you know, we marked it up and we had, you know, a bunch of changes and then we had another meeting. And then we sent it out to the loop, had another meeting and got the comments back, had a meeting. And so that's as of a week ago Monday, a week ago yesterday. So that's at least the 4th version of what the buyer broker agreement was. Now, it's only the first version, well, actually the 3rd version of the agreement to show property, which is a non-exclusive buyer broker agreement with compensation.
And that's called the light? Is that the one that-
Yeah, we started with the buyer broker light is what we were calling it. We wanted a broker light agreement that would comply with the settlement. And Wendy and I got started on it and we got something done to get it out that way, so.
Thank you.
it's a lot less intimidating.
Is that supposed to be used at open houses and when?
Could be, but you don't need it at an open house until you show the house across the street.
Yes, if you were showing the house
Open
across the
houses will
street.
Run the same.
Open houses are the same.
Okay.
Until you try to pick that buyer up and show them other stuff. Okay, working with, whenever you start working with the buyer. And then, the other thing that's coming out, the other source, Joni, if you got some overarching questions, everybody's talking about Fax Realtor. And it's the place to go with the settlement, nitty gritty in the settlement of what's going on. It's on the NAR site. In fact, last week I started watching, NAR is now doing weekly podcasts. And they're coming up with different topics about the settlement, and they're about 9 or 10 minute podcasts. And they give you some of the folks that are on the MLS committee and or the National MLS committee and or the National Communications Committee. And they're giving you strategies of how they're implementing their the changes and how they're incorporating them into their business. Some of it is very good. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, these guys are so close to the edge as far as back into the antitrust violation area. So, but some of it's very good. And it's like, oh my God, there's no way that NAR's attorneys reviewed all these podcasts, but they have good information in it. And it's similar to the ABR, NAR's, they're pushing that a lot to take the ABR, which is a national designation for buyer brokers. And again, it's got a lot of stuff, and we've seen a number of the concepts that are contained in the ABR that are now, we're incorporating it into the forms. And the one thing, let me back up to the question you asked, I just remembered, understand that some people are using the current buyer broker agreement and setting it up as a 1 or a 2 day or a 3 day, or setting it up as a trial buyer broker agreement, right? And adding it into the additional clause, additional terms and conditions. And just saying that, this is in order to take the fear factor away from the buyer signing this thing. So, I'm going to set up a buyer broker agreement for 90 days or whatever you're comfortable with. And at the bottom of it, I'm going to say that the parties agree that this is a trial agreement. In the event the buyer is unhappy with my services, and they can cancel this with a notice within 48 hours. If they don't send a notice, we're on for the balance of the term. Okay, so again, it reduces the tension of, wait, I don't even know you. How come I'm signing this up and I'm signing, because we're not doing the full listing presentation that we do, when we take a listing and we're there for fill in the blank, 30, 40, 2 hours,
2 hours.
3 hours. Yeah, you're doing this on the fly in about 5 minutes, and and the buyer wants, they want to see houses. But I'm not sure I want to be tied with you, but maybe I'll know better after, we've been together for a couple of hours. Just an FYI.
That'd be a good suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate a bit more on what will be
The broker line, again, it's an agreement to show, which means you can show it'll have a term. So, start, stop date. It can be for however long you want. It'll have compensation in the event it leads to a contract. It has the fair housing thing. I think we kept in there. I think we had room for the, review the buyer advisory and stuff like that. So it's not nearly the legalese that the current buyer broker agreement was, or even the non-exclusive buyer broker draft 1 was, which was a train wreck. Second,
A la carte services. Yeah.
what services?
A la carte, charging.
Oh, no, there's not check the box of, of what's going on. Again, and there's not even a specific address. Wait, where do we end up? Sorry. We still have the residential box. We still have the geography box. I believe that the property box, I think we have a line for a property box. It can be a specific property, or it can be, you can write in 8 or 10 properties, something like that. If it's gonna be for that property. The trigger on that, again, I said it's a non-exclusive, but the trigger on that is in the event you write, if your name's on the contract, you're getting paid. If your name isn't on the contract, you're not gonna get paid.
Yeah, that's the concern, folks.
Okay, so that's the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive. Exclusive, you're gonna get paid if they buy, if the buyer buys, whatever. But the non-exclusive is gonna be, again, we're trying this out. And so it's possible that we'll start with a non-exclusive and step up. But again, it's sort of like the trial paragraph or the trial process. So either one of those. can work. It just depends what you're comfortable with as we're getting through this, process, this transition.
And we have gone well past our time frame. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hold June 13th. We'll get you more
Is
information.
that, am I doing that?
Yes, you are. Just so you know. For sure. All right,
Have Bloody Marys or something.
Wait, is this gonna be a mimosa thing too?
I'll talk to Kathy. We'll get you covered. You should pick, yes. I think we need something harder than that. Just saying. Folks, thank you. I'm wearing my One Cares. Several of you showed up. We had a great time. For those that weren't there, we actually organized and reorganized these rooms, moving all their stuff around from different drawers and labeling everything, cleaned up some cat, I guess some cat areas. Who was there that did the cat stuff? You didn't do the cat stuff. Somebody was doing,
Yeah, what's your name?
they cleaned up the, like, in the little kitty hospital area. Audrey did that, and it was a beautiful facility. It's in kind of near the airport, really gorgeous facility, lots of space. Look, how many of you are reading my Sunday newsletter? Actually reading it? Okay. Okay, so here's the deal, folks. My goal is to send out 3 things a week, okay? I send out a Sunday newsletter Tuesday morning, because Tuesdays we now have either the office meeting or my Tuesday training and tactics. Sending just a quick reminder that morning saying, hey, folks, remember it's Tuesday morning. Come on down to the office, okay? And then the third one is a midweek on Wednesday. The goal is on that midweek to give you a real concise list of what is coming up, okay? And on Sunday, I give you everything I have, because we've got a calendar there. If you're not looking at this, we've got rev ups, we've got a lunch and learn. There's all sorts of stuff on that. That's on Sundays. So please, if you're looking for classes, this is a place to start. It's not everything, but it's a lot of it. Like I said, we've got a lunch and learn on the 23rd next week on Thursday. It's at the North Scottsdale office. You're welcome to it. Divorce and real estate. You, this is not a CE class. No. The CE class was last week. So training schedule from Rock Title. These are not CE classes, but again, there's stuff on social media, discipline and resilience, mastering social media. Again, they've got a couple of social media stuff. So then we've got our rev ups. Folks, if you have not gone to the rev ups, please look at the list, go to them. Just take an hour and a half of your time. Most of those classes are done in 90 minutes or less. It depends on who's on those classes. We usually have a nice mix of realtors that have been doing this a while to some newer agents. Always nice to have that blend, like Jan was talking about on our role playing. We hope we have people that have had that experience. This is April's. I'm not updating this. I'm going to take this off in the future. But guys, you have a local association. There are classes through your local association that are free, whether that is through AAR Online, We Serve, Phoenix, Scottsdale. All of them have classes every month. I'm doing Tuesday training and tactics. Next Tuesday, I'm going to talk about some of the current challenges I'm seeing on contracts. I opened my stuff late last night, and I should not do that. I was like, oh my gosh, the 12 of them there, I could not sign off on any of the 12. I was like, oh, I have to call all of these agents. I'm like, wow. So please, 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 if you are not familiar with what you are writing into a counteroffer or the additional terms and conditions, please call me. Please do not have your client sign something if you do not understand what it says. I was amazed at some of what I saw come through. I was like, oh, when is the close date? Like, I don't even understand what that means. It'll be this date or sometime before 10 days prior to after this date. And I'm like, what date is closing? Like, how does title know what date is closing? How do you know what date is closing? Because I sure as heck can't understand that. And it's signed, folks. It's signed. By the time I read it, you guys have already done it. Please, please, please. So that's what Tuesday is gonna be. I'm gonna pull up a whole bunch of stuff. Remember, if you, no, I'll just put text. I'll put the text part, not the top part. But you know, look, you can refer 3 people, you get a free year. I know Roberta had to leave for a signing. Melinda, please come up and say hello from Rock Title. I am so sorry that it took so long. We had lots of stuff. Thank you, Roberta and Melinda and Art for our lovely breakfast. We love having you upstairs and appreciate everything you do. I actually have your photo here. We can go to your photo.
Okay, there we go. You can look at me. And I'm Melinda Johnson. I'm the sales executive for Rock Title. And we have all kinds of things today in talking about escrow. This is not my area of expertise, but I do have 2 little gifts here. But I need an answer. One of the questions is 2 acceptable forms of closing forms. What are they? In an escrow,
Closing ID, is that
closing funds,
fun?
funds.
Oh, okay.
2 acceptable forms of closing funds.
Settlement statement.
Right.
Cashier's check.
Okay, well, it is. Okay, a certified check, I think you said, and then you said, a wire.
So certified funds or a wire?
Summer's coming, so, I think there's like a little, speaker in there and some chopstick and some stuff there. Okay, and here's our big question for today is what does ROC stand for? And you get this great summer
Somebody shout
cooler
it out.
bag.
God. Really? I'm taking it home.
Jason, I'm putting this all on you.
Yes?
Ready, open, close.
Joni got it. You know what? I've been looking at you during the whole. I told Roberta, I go, I'm gonna put it right on him, the homie. I go, do you see what's standing right there? And she goes, I know. And we were just laughing the whole time, but I'm sorry, that was just for fun. But anyway, I just want to remind you that this Thursday, we're having our photo shoot. And we're having it at this beautiful home. I think it's 331 West Orangewood. If you don't want to come and take a photo and you want to bring a client or you just want to come to see what it's about, we would love to have you. I only have like a couple of spots left, but I'm telling you how important it is to have a photo, to get a new photo, to put yourself out there. And I'm just telling you, the people that I'm marketing and working with, we have a process. The minute they get their listing, you know, they send it to me. We do, you know, just listed, we do pending, we do, you know, contract. We just keep going and it's successful. I mean, and like Robert, he's like, you know, I was kind of slacking off, Melinda. And I'm like, yeah, you have been. and he's like moving right along now. So it's really important, you guys. And it's not easy. A lot of people think that you have to like sit down with me and we have to talk and we have to, no, it's really not. Once we get the process done, we can get it out there, but we can help brand you, put out there, and it doesn't. And I just want to show you something kind of crazy because I'm always on social media and look at things. But Kenny Claus this morning, I look at everybody. This morning he posted this, and I just started laughing. But it's like he posted, "What do you think of this marketing?" And this man has, you know, like a frame above the toilet that says, "Need a real estate agent. You're in luck." And he goes, what do you think of this? Well, you know what? I said, well, I saw it. And I know you saw it because you took a picture of it and you put it on social media. So somebody looked at it and they know who it came from when it did. So I'm just saying, sometimes don't make, you know, easy hard. It can be really easy for the process, but put yourself out there because I'm always going to tell you, out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't matter. Just keep putting yourself out there and doing it over and over. I just had this great, it's so funny because I just had a client call me that I haven't seen like in a really long time. And she calls me up and she says, I have this home. And so she decided to do an open house Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's like $900,000 home, beautiful home, older. They remodeled, has, you know, place for horses and stuff. So we're talking and she's like, you know, I really need your help, do this. So we put it all together. We put it out there, put some horses out there and did all this stuff. And I went to the open house on Friday and a lot of people were there. And Saturday, the same thing, not so much on Sunday, but she's already got an accepted contract. But she's like, Melinda, just that crazy, putting out there and doing it and making herself public. And she's like, she's coming to the photo shoot on Thursday. And she goes, I hate taking my picture, Melinda. I don't like my picture. I said, I know. I said, but if you've ever worked with Katie,
Yep, Katie's
she is
amazing.
phenomenal and she makes you feel good about who you are and what you're doing. She gave me this beautiful little photo here that looks like I'm laughing and I'm, I told her it's a great picture. It's just a great picture to put out there. So just come and then you know what? If you don't want to take a picture, come see this fabulous home because it is fabulous. If you have a buyer, we'd love one too. So whatever you want to do, but we'd love to see you there.
Does everybody know where 331, is it
West
West
Orangewood.
Orangewood, so central and Orangewood?
What's the time frame again?
From 10 to 2.
And so you have to RSVP?
Well, you know what? If you just show up, we'll squeeze you in because Katie and I have decided because RSVPs are great, but some people don't. We will stay later if we need to, but I just can't have like Janos. It gets crazy. You get a lot of people, a lot going on, taking pictures, and I'm having the home videograph. There's a man that's coming to do all that for me, and him and I are going to do some marketing and stuff. So there's going to be a lot going on, but it's a fun time. If you want to, if you have a buyer, or you just want to look at the house and preview it, you're more than welcome to come.
Great opportunity.
Oh,
And if your photo is older than 2 years, you need to have it done.
ask Jan, she'll tell you. Art's getting a new one because
No
of-
photos over 2 years old.
Okay, yeah.
Glendale, folks there, they need to change theirs. All right, Kim Farrar is not here, but you probably saw this information. Don't be fooled by our biggest I think it's competitors. Lack of inclusion. They're talking about including the home warranty. Remember, that can be a part of your concessions, something to consider. We are seeing, of course, we're heading into the summer. What is the number one issue as we head towards the summer? AC. If you have a listing coming up and it is vacant, please do not turn off the air conditioner. Please set it at 84 or 86 degrees. Do not turn it off. The homes get too hot inside, very hard to get those ACs back on and running. The inspector will come out and say, oh, air conditioning doesn't work. No, it's 115 outside. It takes it a long time to cool down from those temperatures, right? So please do yourself a favor. I would suggest a home warranty. If you've got a listing, get the listing home warranty on there and have the seller pay the $70 for that added coverage for the AC. They're out of town and that AC goes out. The last thing they want to do is deal with fixing it. So let's see what else we've got here. Whoops.
Can the seller, purchase a home warranty and transfer it to the buyer?
Yes, ma'am. That's what a seller warranty is. They buy it and then they can, then the buyer buys it and the buyer actually gets it from date of close of escrow for a full year, but they get the coverage during the listing term. There is a little cost to add the air conditioner on most of these home warranty plans
Like
for the
70
seller.
I use them once, like $78 to $75.
Yeah, exactly. And you get that coverage. Barb, you've got actually another slide on there just in case you want it,
I
but
did, what do I hit to get
just
to it?
look to the bottom.
Right here. Oh, look at that.
Oh, here, let me move this.
Just
out
gonna
of the
move her
way here.
little bar. Hi,
Move
everybody.
my little bar.
Barb Spitzog with Epic Lending. We are your lending partner, of course. We are here for you guys. I know this is a tough, where's my picture? There I am. This is a tough environment for a lot of people, but people are still buying houses. And we are here to help you guys get those houses closed. I'm doing one with Dave right now. I just did one with Robert Carey. Ami and I have been trying to get somebody in a home. He's a little bit of a challenge. But there are programs out there for everybody. Investment properties, DSCR, bank statement loans, P&L loans. And then our all-in-one loan, of course, for investment and primary and construction. I just talked to one of Jason's clients about the all-in-one the other day, and he was very intrigued by it. Down payment assistance. We have several down payment assistance programs for people that are helping people get into homes. I just closed one on Friday with an agent out of the Glendale office. He bought in Maricopa. He had to come out of pocket with zero money. Although I didn't tell him that when we started because I wanted him to have some money in his bank account. But at the end of the day, we saved him a lot of money and he still had some money in his bank account. So isn't that good? I have another one that's just going under contract tomorrow for down payment assistance, 6.25 on FHA. So that's lower than the FHA rate right now, which is about, the national average is 6.6. The national average for conventional is about 7.12 right now.
Jumbo's around 7.3. But we are starting to see that downward trend again. I hope it stays that way. But remember, we have that rate rebound program. Anyone that goes under contract has 5 years to refinance with us at no lender fees and $1,000 towards title. These are huge benefits and, you know, people are saving money, still getting into homes, not paying rent. The gentleman that closed on Friday with the down payment assistance, he was paying the same amount in rent, $2,700. And now he's gonna pay $2,700 with the down payment assistance. So it's pretty awesome. And that was on a Chenoa, which was 7.25. So there's people out there that just don't understand that they can qualify. So I'm happy to run scenarios for you. Just reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Oops, gotta check.
Oh, and this is the renovation loan.
Oops.
I forgot to mention renovation loans, but for FHA or conventional, if your person's looking at a particular neighborhood and they're only finding houses that need work, the renovation loan can really be their answer. 'Cause a lot of people like specific neighborhoods, right? So I can also run that scenario for you.
Thank you. Awesome. I've got people on here that are asking questions. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Stacy, you were answering the questions to you. Melinda, would you like to talk really quickly? I'm sorry, Roberta, would you like to talk Melinda, I'm sorry. Would you like to talk really quickly about your May, flowers and stuff?
Oh, or May Popeyes?
Yes.
Well, Mother's Day is over, but the other one is still good. All this is a bottle of rosé, and I just have a styrofoam and you just poke a whole bunch of flowers in there. You could do fresh flowers if you want, but it's a beautiful gift for spring, for mothers, or just caring, just to visit. This one's a little bit overdue now. This was a beautiful book for Mother's Day, and you wrote in there things you loved about your mother, and you put it and gave it to her. And I have some really good ones for next month. We need to plan ahead again because Father's Day.
Sure.
We've got to do that ahead. And we'll have the displays up here for you as well tomorrow. And there's still some tags here, but if there isn't any tags, just email me, call me, text me, and I can have them made quickly for you and just bring them down to the office. Oh, I wanted to bring something else up too. If you have any buyer books or relocation guides right now, throw them away or recycle them. Don't throw them away, recycle them. But we just had those done because of interest rates and a couple of other things. So we just had them updated and we've got those because those are outdated. So don't use them.
Well, and come
We're gonna have to
August,
update
they're
them,
all gonna
yeah.
be needing to
We
be
want it ready,
redone.
but I think we've updated what we might be
Yeah.
okay. So
Well, you won't be once we get the new forms,
So,
but
right.
yes. All right, for those that want to stay and talk buyers and sellers, you're welcome to. Everybody else, I understand if you want to leave, but I will ask, does anybody have buyers or seller comments that you want to share? Any buyers? Anybody looking? Any sellers have a property?
I do. I have a new listing. It's around 40th and Union Hills. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single level. Around
4-bedroom,
1,800
2-bath,
square feet.
single level
Right
at Union
there.
Hills and 40th Street.
It's remodeled.
610
Really
remodeled.
good.
Mark Walters, for those online.
A little less than 1,800.
About 1,800 square feet, not quite.
Again, 610 remodeled.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Marie, you got a price reduction?
Yeah. 295 is 283.
283 for a property in Sun City. How many square feet? 1230 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom,
17,000 square foot yard.
17,000? Wow, almost a half an acre in Sun City. That is unheard of. Okay. Anyone else? Anybody online? You can unmute if you want. All right. You guys, thank you so much for staying. I anytime Jim takes over, we end up having lots of questions and answers, but he's amazing. So we take advantage of that when we can. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one. Hopefully I'll see some of you next on Thursday. Come Thursday morning. How many of you are planning to come Thursday morning? Can I see a show of hands?
It's 10 to 2, so we're leaving here.
No, our event is 10 to like 10. Yours is 10 to 2. Ours is going to be 10 to 11,
Right, yeah,
so
we
it's
can
fine.
stay later if we have to.
It's fine. Ours isn't gonna be more than about an hour. All right, folks, thank you very much online. I'm gonna stop sharing. What did I just do? I didn't lose my Zoom. What happened? To do. Thank you guys online. I don't know how to get back to my screen. Hold on. Where did my screen go? There we go. Stop sharing.
That's it.
Yeah.